Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The harsh caw of an alarm shattered the quiet. An unexpected jolt, as jarring as the scent of overripe bananas or a forgotten meeting. The agitated grumbling and thrashing sound of Grayson Mitchell's disgruntled awakening rushed through an apartment that boasted the endearing messiness of a life in full flow. Clumsily administering his scrambled limbs as he yearned for a few more stolen moments of sleep, Grayson grudgingly thwarted the insistent alarm. His roused but weary eyes began to focus on reality through the bleary haze. 7:45 a.m. glared back at him, a stark reminder of his inevitable race against time. With an exasperated groan, he cursed his inability to disentangle himself from the vice-like grip of sleep paralysis any earlier than necessary. The encroaching deadline for a vital software presentation haunted Grayson's every moment, manifesting in a cluttered studio rife with tousled sheets, errant clothes, and the residue of 1,000 indulgent nights. Inspired by neither hygiene nor nutrition, Grayson reluctantly jolted to his bathroom and ferociously flung ice-cold water into his zombie-like features. Thomas, a former programmer who had built Nexus from the ground up, commanded respect despite his laid-back demeanor and tendency to wear expensive sneakers with business suits.
As you all know, we're pitching to Meridian Global tomorrow,
Thomas was saying.
This contract could be worth millions if we land it. Our presentation team has been prepping for weeks and...
The CEO's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression darkening.
"Excuse me a moment,"
he said, stepping out of the room. A collective murmur filled the conference room. Meridian Global was the biggest potential client Nexus had pursued in years. Landing this contract would mean bonuses all around and security for the foreseeable future. Thomas returned, looking grim.
"We have a situation. Amber from Client Relations has come down with severe food poisoning. She was supposed to lead the presentation team tomorrow."
The room fell silent. Amber Wilson wasn't just any employee. She was their presentation specialist, the one who could translate technical jargon into compelling business narratives.
"We need someone to step in,"
Thomas continued, scanning the room.
"Someone who understands both the technical aspects and can communicate them effectively."
Before Grayson could avert his gaze, Thomas pointed directly at him.
"Mitchell, you worked on the core architecture. You know this system inside and out."
"Yes, but presenting to clients isn't really my—"
"There's more,"
Thomas interrupted. Meridian specifically requested a diverse presentation team. They expected Amber to be part of it. Their diversity officer made it clear this was important to them. The implication hung in the air. Nexus Technologies, like many tech firms, struggled with gender diversity. The development team was overwhelmingly male. "We need someone to fill Amber's role completely," Thomas finally said. Martha from marketing was the first to understand. "You mean someone to pretend to be a woman for the presentation?" Thomas winced at the blunt phrasing, but nodded. "We don't have time to bring someone else up to speed on the technical details. We need Grayson's knowledge, but in a different package." All eyes turned to Grayson. He stared back in disbelief.
"You can't be serious,"
he sputtered.
"I can't just... That's not... There must be another way."
"Do you have a better suggestion?" Thomas asked.
"The meeting is at 9 a.m. tomorrow."
Silence fell across the room.
"I'll double your year-end bonus,"
Thomas offered. Grayson looked around at his colleagues' faces, a mixture of amusement, sympathy, and relief that they weren't the ones being asked. His mortgage payment was due next week, and his car needed expensive repairs. The bonus would solve a lot of problems.
Fine, he finally said. But just this once.
The afternoon that followed was surreal. Martha and 2 women from the marketing department took charge of Grayson's transformation, as they called it. They raided the office's emergency clothing stash, maintained for executives who occasionally needed a fresh outfit after all-nighters, and found a navy pencil skirt that might fit Grayson's frame.
You'll need to shave your legs,
Martha informed him matter-of-factly, handing him a razor and moisturizer. And we'll need to do something about that stubble. By 6 that evening, Grayson stood uncomfortable and bewildered in the women's restroom, staring at his reflection. The navy pencil skirt hugged his hips in a way that was both foreign and strangely flattering. The white blouse they'd found was a bit tight across his shoulders, but otherwise fit well enough. His legs, freshly shaved, felt oddly exposed, and the nude heels they'd located, borrowed from an executive assistant with surprisingly large feet, made him wobble with each step. "Stop hunching," Martha instructed, applying foundation to his face. "Women stand straight, shoulders back, chin up." The makeup was applied with precision. Foundation to mask his stubble, subtle eyeshadow, mascara that made his eyes look dramatically different, and finally, bright red lipstick that matched the hastily applied nail polish.
What about my hair?
Grayson asked, touching his short brown locks. "We don't have time for a wig," Martha said. "We'll just style it to look more feminine. You've got that trendy undercut thing happening already. We can work with that." With some gel and strategic styling, his brown hair was transformed into something that could pass for a fashionable pixie cut. "Now, you need a name," said Elena from marketing. "Something you'll respond to naturally." "How about Lola?" suggested Martha. "Simple, memorable."
Lola,
Grayson repeated, testing the name on his lipstick-coated lips.
I guess that works.
They spent the rest of the evening practicing Grayson's walk, speech patterns, and posture. By midnight, Lola could manage a convincing feminine stride in the nude heels and speak without dropping into his natural, deeper register. "Remember," Martha cautioned as they prepared to leave, "this is just for a few hours tomorrow. Get through the presentation, answer any technical questions they have, and then you're done." The next morning arrived with nauseating speed. Grayson dressed in his apartment, following the detailed instructions Martha had written down. The transformation took longer than expected, but eventually Lola emerged, ready for the presentation. The reception at Nexus was a mixture of stunned silence and impressed nods. Thomas did a double-take when Grayson, now fully in character as Lola, walked into the office.
Remarkable,
the CEO muttered.
Let's hope the Meridian people are equally convinced.
The presentation went surprisingly well. Lola confidently presented the technical aspects of the software, answering questions with expertise while maintaining her feminine persona. The client seemed impressed both by the solution and by the apparently diverse team presenting it. During the lunch break, Victoria Huang, the CFO of Meridian Global, approached Lola. "I appreciate your clear explanations," she said. "Most tech presentations either talk down to me or go over my head with jargon. Yours was refreshingly accessible." "That's very kind," Lola replied, carefully modulating her voice. "I believe complex concepts can always be communicated clearly." "We should discuss the implementation timeline in more detail," Victoria suggested. "Would you be available for follow-up meetings? I'd prefer to work directly with you." Lola froze momentarily before recovering. "Of course. I'd be happy to continue our collaboration." When the Meridian team finally left, Thomas gathered the Nexus employees in the conference room, his face split by an enormous grin.
"They loved us," he announced. "Especially you." Lola. Victoria specifically mentioned how much she appreciated working with you. Grayson, still in full Lola attire, shifted uncomfortably. Great. So we're done now, right? Thomas's expression changed. Not exactly. They want Lola to be their main point of contact for the implementation phase. What? But that could take months. 6 months, according to the contract they're drafting, Thomas confirmed. And they're paying 4 times our standard rate. The room fell silent as everyone calculated what that meant for the company and their bonuses. You can't seriously expect me to pretend to be a woman for 6 months, Grayson protested. Not full time, Thomas clarified. Just for client meetings. 1 day a week, maybe 2 at most. And my bonus? Tripled, Thomas said without hesitation, plus a separate clothing allowance. Grayson looked around at his colleagues' hopeful faces. This contract would secure everyone's jobs and potentially allow the company to expand. 1 day a week, he finally conceded. And I want Wednesdays off to compensate. Done, Thomas agreed immediately. And so began Grayson's double life. Every Monday he transformed into Lola, the confident, articulate client liaison who had quickly become Victoria Huang's favorite contact at Nexus. The rest of the week, he remained Grayson, coding and developing in relative anonymity. The transformation became more refined over time. With Martha's continued coaching and a substantial clothing budget, Lola's wardrobe expanded beyond the initial emergency outfit. Grayson learned the subtle art of coordinating accessories, the importance of appropriate heel height for different occasions, and how to apply makeup that lasted through long meetings. A month into the arrangement, Grayson realized something unsettling. He was becoming more comfortable as Lola, not just in the physical sense of managing the heels or makeup, but in how he interacted with others. As Lola, he was more patient, more attentive to social cues, and surprisingly more effective in negotiations. You're different when you're her, Martha observed one Wednesday as they had lunch together. These midweek lunches had become their tradition, a chance for Grayson to decompress and for Martha to provide additional coaching.
What do you mean?
Grayson asked, taking a bite of his sandwich.
As Grayson, you're always rushing, always focused on the next problem to solve. As Lola, you take your time. You listen better.
Grayson considered this.
It's easier to be patient when everyone's treating you differently.
As Lola, people actually wait for me to finish my sentences.
Have you thought about why that is?
He hadn't, not consciously, but the question triggered a cascade of realizations. As Lola, he was forced to be more deliberate in how he walked, spoke, gestured. That deliberateness had spilled over into his thinking and interactions.
It's like playing a role in a very long, very strange play,
he finally said. I have to be constantly aware of how I'm coming across.
And does that awareness feel burdensome?
Martha asked. Grayson hesitated before answering honestly.
Not anymore. Sometimes it feels freeing.
The conversation left him unsettled for days. What did it mean that he found aspects of being Lola freeing? He wasn't transgender. He'd never questioned his gender identity before this bizarre arrangement began. Yet he couldn't deny that slipping into Lola's persona each week had become less of a chore and more of a release. 3 months into the contract, Victoria invited Lola to attend an industry conference as Meridian's technical partner. It would mean 4 days as Lola, not just the usual Monday meetings. I can't do 4 straight days, Grayson protested to Thomas. Someone will figure it out. The contract renewal is worth 7 figures, Thomas countered. And frankly, Lola has become our brand ambassador with Meridian. They trust her. Her, Grayson repeated, noting the pronoun shift. She doesn't exist, Thomas. She's a costume I put on once a week. A costume that saved this company and earned you enough in bonuses to buy that cabin in the mountains you're always talking about, Thomas pointed out. 4 days, Grayson. Then back to normal. The conference was held at a luxury resort in Palm Springs. Grayson arrived the night before, checking in as Grayson, but with a suitcase full of Lola's carefully selected outfits. In the morning, he completed his transformation and stepped out as Lola, wearing a coral blouse, cream-tailored pants, and beige pumps that complemented her brown pixie cut. Victoria greeted her warmly in the hotel lobby. "Lola, I'm so glad you could make it. We're presenting our implementation case study this afternoon." "I've reviewed the slides," Lola assured her. "Everything looks in order." The day passed in a whirlwind of panels, networking events, and the presentation, which was received with enthusiasm. By evening, Lola's feet ached from the heels, but she felt a strange sense of accomplishment. At the conference dinner, Victoria introduced Lola to several influential industry figures. "Lola has revolutionized our approach to data management," she told them. "Her technical insights combined with her communication skills are extraordinary." The praise felt genuine, and Lola found herself blushing. These people weren't complimenting Grayson in disguise. They were responding to Lola, to her competence, her presence, her way of explaining complex concepts. Later that night, back in the hotel room, Grayson didn't immediately remove the makeup or change out of Lola's evening attire, a conservative but elegant black dress with subtle silver jewelry. Instead, he sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the reflection in the mirror across the room.
"Who are you?"
he whispered to the brown-haired woman looking back at him. The question lingered without an answer as he finally began removing the carefully applied makeup. The conference continued for 3 more days, during which Lola networked, presented, and further cemented Nexus's relationship with Meridian. By the time Grayson returned to his apartment, he felt oddly displaced, as if returning to his masculine self was now the performance. The following week brought an unexpected development. Victoria called Thomas directly, requesting that Lola be assigned to Meridian as a permanent liaison, working on site at their headquarters 3 days a week.
"It's impossible,"
Grayson insisted when Thomas relayed the request. "I can't maintain this charade indefinitely. Someone will discover the truth." "They're offering to triple what they're already paying us," Thomas said. "And they specifically want Lola, not just any technical consultant." "Because Lola doesn't exist!" Grayson's voice rose in frustration. "She's a fiction we created because we were desperate. A fiction that's become very real to our biggest client," Thomas countered. "Look, I'm not asking for a lifetime commitment. 6 more months. By then, the project will be fully implemented, and we can gradually transition Lola out." Grayson paced the office, torn between practical considerations and a growing sense that this situation had spiraled far beyond what he'd initially agreed to.
3 days as Lola, 2 days as myself, working remotely," he finally proposed. "And I want a clause that after 6 months, Lola takes another position, regardless of project status."
Thomas agreed readily, clearly relieved.
"I'll have legal draw up the paperwork."
That evening, Grayson found himself in the unusual position of shopping for Lola's expanded wardrobe. The clothing allowance from Nexus was generous, recognizing that Lola needed to maintain a professional appearance across multiple days now. As he browsed through the women's business attire section, a sales associate approached. "Can I help you find something?" she asked. For a disorienting moment, Grayson nearly launched into an explanation about shopping for his non-existent girlfriend.
Instead, he heard himself say, "I need to update my work wardrobe. I'm starting a new position that requires more client-facing time." The woman smiled. "Congratulations! Let's find you something appropriate but with personality." The shopping experience was surprisingly pleasant. The associate, Diane, helped select outfits that would work well with Lola's body type and coloring. She didn't question why a customer with fairly masculine features was purchasing women's clothing. Either she assumed Grayson was transgender, or she was professionally discreet. "Your brown hair will look lovely with this sapphire blouse," she commented as they assembled a collection of mix-and-match pieces. "It brings out the warmth in your complexion." By the end of the shopping trip, Lola had a functional wardrobe of business attire, 5 blouses in various colors, 3 skirts, 2 pairs of tailored pants, a versatile navy dress, and 2 new pairs of comfortable yet professional heels. The new arrangement began the following week. Grayson arrived at his apartment Sunday evening after spending the weekend hiking, a simple pleasure that helped him reconnect with himself. That night, he laid out Lola's outfit for the morning: a plum-colored blouse, charcoal pencil skirt, and black heels. The alarm rang at 5:30 a.m., giving him ample time for the transformation. The process had become almost meditative. The careful application of foundation and concealer, the subtle contouring that softened his jawline, the mascara that emphasized his naturally long eyelashes. His brown hair had grown longer over the months, and with some styling, it now fell in a feminine bob that framed his face. He'd started using women's shampoo and conditioner, enjoying the softer texture it gave his hair. By 7:15, Lola was ready, looking polished and professional. She grabbed her leather portfolio and car keys, heading for Meridian's downtown headquarters. Victoria greeted her with a genuine smile. "Welcome to your first official day as our technical liaison, Lola. I've had an office prepared for you." The office was spacious and bright, with a view of the city skyline. A nameplate on the door read Lola Mitchell, a detail that gave her pause. The fiction was becoming more substantial with each passing day. The work itself was engaging. Lola spent the morning in meetings with various department heads, explaining how the Nexus software would integrate with their existing systems. Her technical knowledge combined with her approachable communication style made these interactions productive. During lunch in the executive dining room, Victoria introduced her to several board members. "Lola has been instrumental in our digital transformation," she told them. "Her insights have already saved us millions in potential integration costs." The praise felt earned. These weren't compliments for Grayson pretending to be Lola. They were acknowledgments of actual work and contributions that Lola had made. By Wednesday evening, after 3 consecutive days as Lola, returning to Grayson's apartment felt strange. The space was clearly a bachelor's domain, functional but impersonal, with little attention to aesthetics or comfort. On impulse, Grayson stopped at a home goods store on Thursday, purchasing new throw pillows, a soft area rug, and scented candles. The small changes made the apartment feel more welcoming, more like a home rather than just a place to sleep.
"This isn't about being Lola,"
he told himself as he arranged the new items.
"It's about taking better care of my living space."
But on some level, he recognized that the boundaries were blurring. The attention to detail, the appreciation for comfort and beauty that he'd developed as Lola was seeping into Grayson's life. The pattern continued for weeks. 3 days as Lola at Meridian, immersed in her responsibilities and relationships there. 2 days as Grayson, working remotely for Nexus, maintaining the technical foundations of the project. Weekends were meant to be entirely Grayson's time, but increasingly, elements of Lola, her patience, her attentiveness, her appreciation for aesthetics,
colored how he spent those days. 4 months into the new arrangement, Victoria invited Lola to her home for dinner. "Nothing formal," she assured her. "Just a small gathering of friends. I realized we've worked together for months, but I know so little about you personally." The invitation created a new dilemma. Lola's professional background was established enough. Nexus had created a portfolio showing previous projects and qualifications, carefully constructed to match Grayson's actual experience while presenting it as Lola's. But personal details? Family history? These were dangerous territories where inconsistencies could easily emerge.
"I should decline,"
Grayson told Martha during their weekly lunch.
"The risk is too high."
Or, Martha suggested, you could use this as an opportunity to develop Lola's background more fully. The more complete her story, the less likely you are to be caught in a contradiction. That evening, Grayson sat at his computer, creating Lola's life story. She had grown up in the Pacific Northwest, studied computer science at a mid-tier state university, and worked for several smaller firms before joining Nexus. Her family consisted of parents who had retired to Arizona and a brother on the East Coast. She was single, having focused primarily on her career. "Simple, believable, and close enough to my reality that I won't slip up," Grayson muttered as he committed the details to memory. The dinner at Victoria's home was intimate. Just 8 guests, including Lola. Victoria's husband, a pediatric surgeon, was charming and warm. The other guests included a local gallery owner, a university professor, and his wife, and another executive from Meridian with her partner. "We try to avoid shop talk at these gatherings," Victoria explained as she showed Lola to the dining room. "It's our chance to connect as people rather than colleagues." The evening flowed naturally. Lola found herself discussing art with the gallery owner, debating recent films with the professor, and sharing travel stories with Victoria's husband. The conversation never felt forced or artificial. She wasn't performing or calculating her responses. She was simply present, engaged, and enjoying the company. When the topic turned to childhood memories, Lola shared modified versions of Grayson's experiences: camping trips in national parks, a first computer built from spare parts, the thrill of solving complex math problems in high school. "You light up when you talk about problem solving," Victoria observed. "It's clearly your passion." "It always has been," Lola admitted, realizing the truth in this statement. Finding elegant solutions to complex problems. There's nothing more satisfying. By the time she left, Lola had been invited to the gallery's upcoming exhibition opening and added to Victoria's monthly book club. The evening had transcended professional networking. These people were becoming friends. Driving home, still dressed in the burgundy wrap dress and black heels she'd chosen for the dinner, a troubling question formed in Grayson's mind. Which was now the performance, being Lola or being Grayson? The question lingered as weeks passed. At Meridian, Lola thrived. Her role expanded beyond technical liaison to include strategic planning for future digital initiatives. She was invited to executive retreats, included in long-term planning sessions, and treated as a valued member of the leadership team. Meanwhile, Grayson's 2 days working remotely for Nexus felt increasingly isolated. Former colleagues didn't reach out as often. He was becoming peripheral to the daily life of the company. His social life had also contracted. Maintaining Lola's schedule and appearance left little energy for Grayson's previous activities. 5 months into the arrangement, Thomas called Grayson into his office during one of his rare visits to Nexus headquarters.
"We need to discuss the transition plan,"
Thomas said.
"According to our agreement, Lola's position with Meridian ends in 1 month.
Grayson had been expecting this conversation. yet it still caused an unexpected tightness in his chest. Right. I assume you've started preparing Meridian for the change? Thomas looked uncomfortable. That's what I wanted to discuss. Victoria approached me about making Lola's position permanent. They're prepared to contract with Nexus for 3 more years, with Lola as the designated liaison. The offer hung in the air between them. 3 more years, Grayson repeated. That's not possible. We agreed on 6 months. I know what we agreed, Thomas said. But circumstances have changed. This contract would secure Nexus's future. We could expand, hire more developers, pursue other enterprise clients. Using a fictional employee as our front person, Grayson pointed out. The longer this goes on, the more likely it is that someone discovers the truth. Or, Thomas said carefully, Lola doesn't have to remain fictional. Grayson stared at him. What exactly are you suggesting? Many people transition gender later in life, Thomas said. It wouldn't be unreasonable if Grayson Mitchell decided to live authentically as Lola Mitchell. The suggestion landed like a physical blow. You want me to transition? To permanently become Lola? That's insane. Is it? Thomas asked quietly. You're already living as Lola 3 days a week. By all accounts, you're excellent at it. You've developed real relationships at Meridian. Victoria speaks of you with genuine respect and affection. That doesn't mean I want to live as a woman permanently. Doesn't it? Thomas leaned forward. Martha says you've been incorporating more of Lola into your everyday life. Your apartment, your mannerisms, even how you spend your free time has changed. The observation was uncomfortably accurate. Grayson had indeed found himself adopting aspects of Lola's personality and preferences, even when not in character. I need time to think, he finally said, rising from his chair. Of course, Thomas agreed. Take the weekend, but Meridian needs an answer by Monday. If Lola is leaving, they need to begin planning for her replacement. The weekend passed in a blur of conflicted thoughts and emotions. Grayson hiked his favorite trail, cooked elaborate meals, cleaned his apartment, anything to keep his mind occupied. But the question remained, who was he really? Sunday evening, he stood before the bathroom mirror, studying his reflection. His brown hair had grown past his shoulders now, though he usually kept it tied back when he was being Grayson. His face, free of makeup, showed subtle changes from months of improved skincare. Even his posture had altered. He stood straighter, more balanced. With deliberate movements, he began Lola's transformation routine. The foundation, the contouring, the subtle eye makeup, the lip color. He styled his hair in loose waves framing his face. From his closet, he selected a simple blue dress. Not a work outfit, but something casual and comfortable. The woman who looked back from the mirror wasn't a disguise anymore. She was familiar, authentic in a way that was both frightening and exhilarating.
Who are you?
He whispered, echoing the question he'd asked months ago in that hotel room. This time, an answer came with surprising clarity. I'm Lola. Monday morning, dressed in a forest green blouse and black pencil skirt, Lola walked into Victoria's office at Meridian. I wanted to discuss my position here, she began. I understand there's interest in extending my role. Victoria smiled warmly. Absolutely. You've become indispensable to our team, Lola. We'd like to offer you a permanent position, still officially through Nexus, of course, but with a longer-term commitment. Before I accept, Lola said carefully. "There's something important you should know." Victoria's expression grew concerned. "Is everything all right?" "Yes, actually. Better than all right." Lola took a deep breath. "I've recently begun my gender transition. The person I was before is no longer who I am. I'm Lola now, fully and completely." Understanding dawned on Victoria's face. "Are you telling me you're transgender?" "Yes," Lola confirmed. "I wanted to be transparent about this aspect of my identity." Victoria reached across the desk to squeeze Lola's hand. "Thank you for trusting me with this. It changes nothing about our professional relationship or how valued you are here at Meridian." Relief washed over Lola. The truth, at least a version of it, was now in the open. She wouldn't have to fear discovery or exposure. "In that case," she said with a genuine smile, "I'd be honored to accept the permanent position." Later that day, she called Thomas to confirm the arrangement. He was predictably pleased with the outcome, though he asked several times if she was certain about her decision. "More certain than I've been about anything," she assured him. "Lola isn't a character I'm playing anymore. She's who I am." The transition wasn't without challenges. Legal name changes, updated identification documents, and other practical matters took time. Explaining the situation to distant acquaintances and rebuilding a complete life history required careful attention to detail. But 6 months after making her decision, Lola Mitchell sat in her newly decorated apartment, the same physical space that had once been Grayson's bachelor pad, now transformed with comfortable furniture, artwork, and plants, feeling a profound sense of rightness. Her phone chimed with a message from Victoria, confirming their book club meeting that weekend. Another notification showed an email from Thomas, with preliminary figures showing Nexus's growth since securing the extended Meridian contract. Lola smiled, running her fingers through her shoulder-length brown hair. What had begun as an emergency measure, a reluctant disguise, had revealed her authentic self. The navy pencil skirt and white blouse hung in the back of her closet now, a reminder of where her journey had begun, but no longer defining who she was. Her wardrobe had expanded and evolved to reflect her personal style. Professional, but with touches of color and creativity that expressed her personality. The nude heels had been retired in favor of more comfortable options, though she still appreciated getting dressed up for special occasions. The red lipstick, however, remained a favorite, a small but significant connection to that first day of transformation when Lola had been nothing more than a hasty disguise and a borrowed name. Now, Lola was real, more real perhaps than Grayson had ever been. As she prepared for her workday, selecting a cobalt blue dress from her closet, she reflected on the strange path that had led her here. A desperate charade had become a revelation. A temporary solution had become a permanent truth. She had stepped into another identity to save a company and discovered her authentic self in the process.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!